The goal of being on a Housewives series from Bravo is to make sure that after the series is done, you have some kind of business that catapults your life and puts you into other atmospheres. Most of the women that have come on Bravo's Housewives series have done that. Dr. Tiffany Moon is precisely that person. Being the first medical doctors on the series and the first generation Asian American on the series as well has been two of her triumphs. Now she stepped into a new realm with a new wine line that she started called Three Moons. The wine brand was started by her husband, and recently Dr. Moon decided that she wanted to add her own flavor into the line. So now she has 3 bottles of her own that she added in here, and they taste absolutely amazing. So what I wanted to ask Dr. Moon, one is how she became a medical doctor. Most people don't know that she became a doctor at the age of 23, which is very young for the industry. And then how she decided to take her career and put it on reality television. And then the big question of how her life has changed since coming off of reality television. And then we're going to have some fun and talk about the do's and do nots of wine drinking and some of the myths of what you can and can't do, and how she decided to make this wine come to life. So as always, you guys sit back, relax, grab you a glass of Three Moons wine. You're now tuned in to Swap Sessions. All right, so before we get started, you know we got to go through all the business stuff because you got to do it. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're subscribed to the magazine. If you're listening to us on a podcast, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast as well. Share this with all of your friends and your network and your followers on different platforms. We appreciate getting into new houses, getting into new ears, getting into the eyes of new people so they can see the magazine and enjoy it as well. So share, share, share. We definitely appreciate your support with that. Leave comments on the posts that you like and even the posts that you don't like. Let us know how you feel about it because that makes us better at providing you with the content that you're looking for. Hit that like button so you can make sure that we know you like the story, and that helps us make sure we're putting the same content out around that area for you. And turn that notification button on because we are going to be posting a lot of stuff coming up soon. It's going to be a really dope fall. Trust me when I say that. All right. So with all that said, let's get to it. Just one, thanks for coming on and talking with us. I really appreciate it. We have been fans of yours for a little while now. But I want to find out like the basic things that we hadn't gotten a chance to know. So like, what was your childhood like? Where did you grow up at?
I was born in Beijing, China, and came to America when I was 6 years old. So I landed in New York at age 6, ready to start first grade, not knowing a word of English.
Wow.
Yeah.
First grade, not knowing English.
Yeah, my kids just started first grade this week and they know lots of English. I'm so jealous.
Was it challenging for you coming in at, because that's what, 6, 7 years old at that point? And then not being able to communicate with your classmates? Was that hard?
It was incredibly hard, incredibly isolating, but also I think taught me to be tough and resilient.
Yeah. When you start to adjust and start making new friends, how much of your culture did you guys make sure you implemented into like your everyday life, and how did your friends adjust to you being Chinese?
Predominantly the school that I went to did not have Chinese people. So, and my parents wanted me so bad to assimilate into the school that I think they pushed me in some ways not to have too much Chinese traditions. They wanted me to learn about Christmas and Easter. But at home, I think is where we kept our culture alive because we would celebrate Chinese New Year. We would honor our ancestors on the day of their passing, things like that. But we really kept it at home. I tried not to bring my culture to school with me because I wasn't sure how it would be accepted by other people. And I just wanted so badly to fit in that I wasn't going to go doing things to be different.
Right. Bringing more attention to yourself.
Right.
Understood. So when you go through school and you, I guess it's like high school era, what was that like? What kind of things did you do?
I'm a big dork. You see all these books that I'm surrounded by. I have more books than friends. I have a very tight-knit circle of friends that I've had for a very long time, but I am introverted, and I do recharge sort of by reading a good book or meditating or just cuddling with my dogs. Back in high school, I wanted so badly to be part of the popular girls and go out to the football games on Friday nights and, go to the birthday parties. But my parents were very strict. I was never allowed to sleep over, and I had a 10 p.m. curfew. So that didn't allow for much. And because of those constraints, I think eventually I was like, you know what, forget it. I'm just not going to go out because everyone's going to make fun of me for needing to leave at 9:30 so that I can be home at 10. And it's just going to cause a ruckus, and I'll just not even go. I'll just go home and read a book. Forget it. It's not even worth it anymore. That the event starts at 8 and I have to leave at 9:30. Like, just forget it.
Yeah, that's a parenting tactic that kind of worked in their favor. So before anything starts, you're already going home.
Right. So I might as well just stay my ass at home to begin with.
Wow. All right. And then you go to college. Did you grow up wanting to be a doctor, or is that something that happened later in life?
Either my mom put that little chip into my head when I came to America, or I always wanted to be a doctor, because as far back as I can remember, which is about age 5 or 6, I remember wanting to help people, being fascinated with like the game Operation, always loved science and math, loved watching doctors like perform procedures, was never ever skittish around blood, which my husband is. He's like, ew, blood. And I was like, ooh, fascinating. What are they taking out? So I guess I think that for ever since I was little, that's really what I wanted to do.
Wow. And you got your doctorate degree at 23.
Yes, I graduated with my MD at the age of 23. So I was a baby doctor, if you will.
Jeez. Yeah, basically. Like I'm kind of like your husband. Like I can't do like the blood stuff. Like it doesn't bother me to see blood, but I want nothing to do with it. Like I can't, like even down to like people that have to get like injections of something, I can't do it. Like I feel bad inflicting pain on other people in any kind of way. So it's like putting a needle in you, that creeps me out. I can't put your earrings in.
Yeah, no, my husband, same way. Like he can barely get his labs drawn at the doctor's. He's just so terrified of needles. Yeah,
no, I look away and I'm just like, just do it. Like, you don't want to, no, I don't want to see anything. Just do what you got to do and hurry up, please. Respectfully.
Yes, right.
So you come in again because you're early into a field where it's very much an older population, and like these people, quote unquote, know it all. How do you merge yourself into that at such a young age?
That is a really insightful question, because I think medicine as a profession is male dominated, as well as older people tend to be in the profession. And if you're young, you're sort of looked down like, oh, you don't have the experience, or let me show you how you do something. And that happened quite a bit. I was talked down to many times. And the way I sort of internalize things is outwardly, I'm not going to say anything because that's not my style. Outwardly, I'm like, yes, sir. I'll learn better next time. I'm so sorry I didn't know that. But inside, that built the fire within me to go read that chapter, take notes, read it again, and be like, if anyone ever asks me about the kidney ever again, I'm gonna know every damn thing about every nephron and every tubule. And it lit the fire inside me. But yeah, it's hard. It's been a hard road, being a young female, non-Anglo-Saxon physician.
Yeah. And I can only imagine like having to try to prove yourself over and over and over and over again, because you're already looked at like you'd have no business being here. And especially again at 23, it's just every doctor for the most part that I've come across in life has been middle-aged to older. And it's very rare for me to get a young doctor. And when I do, I'm like, wow, you're almost my age. So it's always interesting to me when I see someone go into that field at a young age and then try to figure out how they finagle their way through it.
Yeah, I mean, as if it weren't hard enough to be a doctor in the first place. You know, you have to deal with these challenges, but they're not unique to me. It was also very comforting to talk to slightly older female physicians, and I would say to them, you know, how do you deal with being put down on or having sort of sexist remarks off the cuff made during rounds about you, or people persisting to call you nurse after you've introduced yourself as doctor? How do you deal with these sort of microaggressions on a daily basis? And I had some really good advice from a lot of female physicians that I followed. Yeah,
that's cool. It's good that you had that network in there. When you're successful, you're a doctor, everything is working well for you. What makes you decide to put your life on reality television?
That is a very good question. Sometimes I ask myself the same thing. What the hell were you thinking? The off the cuff answer is I thought it would be fun. Yeah. I thought that it would be a unique experience that would be so different than anything I've ever done in my life. Being a doctor, being a mom, being a figure skater, you know, all those things. I'm like, this is completely different. And I feel like maybe they picked the wrong person. You know, it's like when someone waves at you or you think they're waving at you.
And it's not you.
You're like, so when I realized they were waving at me, I was like, oh, hey, girl, hey. Like, I was just so, I guess, flattered to be nominated. I don't know the answer to it. It was just such a weird feeling. And I said to my husband, like, should I do this thing? And he's like, babe, you know, I want you to do whatever it is that you want to do that's going to make you happy. And I was like, I know, but this is you too. Like, this is your life, our kid's life, like our whole thing. So I need your input on this. And he was like, babe, whatever makes you happy. And I was like, you know what? Let me just try it one time and see how it goes.
How did that affect your life now that you're done with that? How did that affect or change your life? Are there regrets at all?
I definitely don't regret doing it. But as I told my friend the other day, I think my talents are better suited for the operating room than they are for the people. So it's like, you know, been there, done that. That was cool. Don't regret it. Learned so much. Yeah. There were, you know, as they say, the good, the bad, and the ugly of that relationship, let's say, that's now ended. And I learned a lot. And there were fun moments. There really were.
Yeah. So I've interviewed a couple people that have done the shows, and it's like when you realize that you did filming, say, for 3 days, And of that 3 days, 15 minutes of that is actually put on the show. And then the 15 minutes of it that's put on the show is your worst 15 minutes of the 3 days. And it's like, oh my God, we don't like you because of what we just saw on the show. And it's like, we had so much fun and you caught the argument, and that's what you're airing. And now that like portrays me as being like the petty person.
Right.
And it blows me because you would think that the companies would want to promote a better image, but it's like it almost looks for like the worst of all the filming and then says, this is what being a housewife of this place is.
You know, I wasn't a part of that process, but I will say this. I think people often see the world or others through a certain colored lens. Mm-hmm. If you're a positive, optimistic person, I think you see things through a rosy colored lens. And when people make mistakes, I think you give them forgiveness and grace, and you see that they're just humans and we're all just doing the best we can, and we have our good days and bad days. Now, the opposite of that, and I know some of these people, is that they just see everything through a gray lens. It could be the nicest day outside and they're complaining about something. There's always something wrong with a person. And I say, if you're gonna go look for something wrong with a person, you're gonna find it, because we're all people. Yeah. So that's my answer to that things will be how you perceive them to be.
And very insightful, because it's the absolute truth. You can, in any situation, everyone will find that. Okay, so now to the fun stuff. You have created your own wine company.
Yes.
And what I didn't know, Napa Valley is somewhere that you went a lot when you were in your residency. So you would just go there to relax and zone out. But now, because I have the Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh, hey, I haven't opened mine yet because it's not wine o'clock here yet. It's only 3:48 p.m.
Oh yeah. For me, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So,
I'm like waiting for the clock. I'm like, is it 5 yet? Because then I'll open this.
This starts my weekend.
Hey,
so
sounds like a good weekend.
Yeah, how and why? Like, how did this happen? And again, I know that you were going to Napa so much. Was that what encouraged this? Was it like the moment actually came and you could do it yourself? While I sip this.
Yeah. So I did my residency at the University of California, San Francisco, which is just like an hour and a half away from Napa. And my husband and I were long distance at the time. I was in SF, he was in Dallas. So whenever he would come visit SF and I had the whole weekend off, we're like, let's go to Napa. And we'd stay up there. We'd book tastings at certain wineries. And I never was into wine before that. I was like, it's wine, like whatever. I don't understand why it's so expensive. And then all the wine snobs are like, ew, tastes like leather, tastes like whatever. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm not into that. I'm like, let's just drink, like let's get vodka, whatever. So when I went to Napa and started going to the wineries and talking to the winemakers, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so sophisticated and it's so complex and there's so many different varietals. And, last year it rained a lot and that really changed the flavor of the grapes and how they age it and how they ferment it. And my nerd brain just totally was like, oh my God. So I fell in love with the process of growing grapes, harvesting them, and making that juice into something delicious that you drink to celebrate people and to bring people together. I was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. Like, why did no one tell me about this before I was like 25 years old? So that's how it started. And then my husband, Daniel, and I just started kind of crafting what our own palate was. And then he started making wine in 2009. He made his signature Cabernet Sauvignon, which he loves. It's a big, bold cab. And then just last year, I started making my two wines, which is a Sauv Blanc, a nice dry white, and then a red blend that I always say is for people who at least say that they don't like red wine. I'm like, just try mine, please. It's an easy drinker. It's approachable.
Yeah.
So yeah, Daniel Moon has been making wine for over a decade, myself just for the last year.
Nice. And I'm like you. When I first saw wine, I was like, I don't get it. I don't see what the big deal is. Whatever. Just drink it. And as you develop a taste for wine, it becomes more particular. So it's like, I don't like this Chardonnay from this company, but I love the Chardonnay from that company. I don't like the Riesling at this place, but I love the Riesling from this place. This one is okay. If it's a wine from a certain area, that one might be a little more bitter. It's like you learn, and it becomes beyond interesting. So when the first wine tasting I went to, I was in New York City. It was a huge convention center, and I've never been to a wine tasting before. And I go to this table, we're drinking the wine, and this guy, I guess he wrote for like a wine magazine, he spits the wine out. And I was like, that is disgusting. What is he doing? And they were like, no, you're supposed to like kind of swish it around your mouth and spit it out. You're not supposed to drink it. I said, no, we don't waste alcohol. Like that's not what we do. And then by the end of the day, I understood why you don't drink all the alcohol at a wine tasting. Yep. We were lit.
Yeah, by like the fourth wine tasting, I'm like, it all tastes good. I love this wine so much. Yes, I'll take a case. Then it comes and I'm like, I don't like this at all.
This is disgusting. Who said yes to pork?
Yes, exactly. Same.
This is a pork
deal.
wine. Who did this?
I think every person needs to go through that experience.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of fun, but now I understood why you spit it out.
Yeah.
But for you, when it comes to, because it's always interesting to me when it comes to making this, like how long did that take, and how intricate was your process in making your flavor of this wine?
Well, I will give ample credit to my winemaker because he is the one actually sourcing the grapes from different vineyards in Napa. All of my juice comes from Napa. And he says this one has a more volcanic soil. It has more tannins. I mean, he does literally all like 95% of the work. And then I just fly to Napa for that last 5% and do the blending sessions and come up with our flavor profiles and how we're going to describe the wine to people on the internet who can't actually taste it because we're internet only for now. We only made a few hundred cases, so we can't, be at specs or whatever. So really, he does all the hard work, and then I just swoop in for the last 5% that's fun.
Yeah, it's great. Like okay, so the red wine, the red blend. Mm-hmm. Reds are, for me, they're almost harsh. So right. I typically go to a red blend because it just has like a little more of a smooth vibe to it.
Yes.
If that sounds right in wine talk.
That is not only right, it's exactly why I made this red blend. Yeah,
because I like a straight Cabernet, like I can't do it. Like I can't like that, and then what is it? This Shirazes, like it's just they're too much. They're too bold for me.
Yes.
So the blends are it. It's kind of where I stop. So you did something great by doing that because it brings us in who don't necessarily want that particular flavor.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm
trying to figure out how to ask this question. Like, how do you blend? Like,
no, that's a good question. Look, I love me a good Cab Sauv, but I'm gonna need a steak to go with it, a cheese and charcuterie board or something like that. And during the day, I generally drink white, like when I'm, by the pool, hanging out with my friends, stuff like that. The red blend is like, well, how do you go about blending wine? But you start with a base. Like I like dry, not sweet, not too much tannin, which is sort of when you drink it and it like sucks all the it's just so dry and you're like,
it sucks the life out of you.
Yeah. And then you need a steak to go with it to wet your mouth again because it's just so dry. I was like, I don't want that. I want an easy drinking red that we can drink during the day, that you don't have to have something to eat with. And so we decided that our primary mix was going to be a Merlot, a Cab Franc, and then just like 3 or 4% of the Cab Sauv to give it some structure, because you don't want it to be flat. You don't want it to go in your mouth and be like, nah. It needs to have some body. So we gave it that Cab Sauv to give it a little bit more structure. But these are all things that mostly I told my winemaker that I wanted. And then he was the one that put the percentages together for the most part. And then what we do is we have like bottles A, B, C, and D that he's made with a card that's face down. And then we blind taste them, like A through D. Yes, it is so much fun. So we'll drink D and I'll be like, that one has a nice finish, but the front, like when I first put it in my mouth, like it felt a little flat. And then like B, I really like, and then my husband is there too. So now you got 2 people offering opinions on something, and you know how that goes. So then we kind of decide our favorite, each of us. And often we agree, which is very rare for marriages. Yeah. And then the guy will flip the card over and it'll be like, oh, this one's 60% Merlot, 10% Cab Franc, 5% Petit Verdot, and I'll be like, oh, like that's why this one tasted so much different than this other blend. So we're like blending and learning all at the same time.
I mean, it's literally like how you're explaining it. It's a science, like down to the dirt, like to the dirt, to the rain, like all of that plays into how your wines are going to taste in the end.
Which is why I love winemaking so much, why it appealed to the nerd side of me that loves science. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah. So it's interesting. When I first started, I bought it was a South African wine. And I was like, this tastes horrible. And the guy was like, he said it's South African wine. He was like, the dirt quality is not going to give you a wine that's going to be for your palate being in the Northeast of America. He's like, you're not going to enjoy that. And that was the first time I understood that like the dirt makes a difference and the region makes a difference. And I was thinking I was being cultured by buying wines from all over the place and stocking my shelves up. And he was like, you're not going to like wines from everywhere. They're all going to taste different.
I know what you mean. Sometimes I don't like wines from like a particular region because that soil is just not what I'm looking for. But then I'm really surprised because sometimes people will have me blind taste something and they'll be like, oh, this is from the Finger Lakes region of New York. And I'm like, really? It's kind of good. It's kind of good. And it's like, maybe if you had told me that before I drink it, I might have had a misconception that like this wine's not going to be good because it's not from France, not from Italy, it's not from Napa. In my mind, I would have not liked it. But because she was like, girl, taste this. And I was like, this is good. Where's it from? And she's like, New York. And I was like, New York makes wine, so again, I think when you learn about wine and taste wine, like you learn so many things about life, right? Because then I actually recognized, like, if you had told me this is from New York, I bet you when I tasted it, I would have said I didn't like it. And I was like, wow, Tiffany, like, wow, like let that marinate for a second, what you just said. So
nope, absolutely. So why 3 Moons? Where did the name 3 Moons come from?
Well, my husband created 3 Moons in 2009. He's Korean and they are very cultured and like to revere their elderly. So he has an older brother and a father. So the original 3 Moons are my husband, his brother, and their dad. But then I made the wine under the same label, and I call my 3 Moons myself and my 2 mini-me's, who are my twin 7-year-old daughters.
Wow, nice.
So the moons can change. There are so many moons.
The moons change. The moons change. That's really cool. 3 Moons. I love it.
Yeah.
What's next? Like,
can you tell me? Does somebody have a crystal ball and they can just tell me what's next for me? Because I feel, I don't know what's next. I really don't. I don't have anything in the works. I'm just, promoting my wine, trying to get people together, starting to travel again, make sure my babies are doing good and healthy and happy, working on my marriage, working in the operating room. I mean, just the normal things.
It's the normal stuff. Have you found people, this is a random question, I'll probably have to plug back in the middle somewhere. Have you found that people will come to you as a doctor because they've seen you on television and kind of like want to be friends instead of being a patient?
No, I do not think that I've made more doctor friends as a result of this experience. I think if anything, it's probably harmed my career because a lot of the older, non-reality watching physicians that may have certain misconceptions about what the show is about, it sort of made me be less serious of a doctor in some ways. Like, oh, she did that? Like, she must not be a very good doctor, And I'm like, why does doing that like make me any less of an anesthesiologist? Like, I am sorry, I'm gonna toot my own horn here and say I am a damn good anesthesiologist. I take care of patients in their most vulnerable times during surgery, very sick patients. And I think that I do a very good job, and I care for them, and I read, and I do studies, and I teach medical students. So why is this because this other one thing? Now it negates all of those other things that I did? I don't think so. If that's how you think, then we probably shouldn't be friends because we obviously don't have the same line of thinking. Yeah. So to answer your question in a very long roundabout way, no, I don't think this has helped my medical career at all. It's probably, unhelped it, whatever the word for that is. But it has given me a voice, I think, to talk about issues that are important to me, such as supporting the AAPI community, what it's like being a working mom, gender equity, all of those things I talked about before this, except not many people were listening. So now I have more voices listening, and it's important to me to use my voice for those topics.
Has that become hard for you? Like, have you felt the pressure of the platform? And now that you have it, it's like everyone needs you to say something about this thing. Has that become challenging?
I did feel some pressure in some way because being the only doctor and being the first generation Asian American, I felt pressure to represent my people, that if I didn't do something well or said something embarrassing, that the profession of medicine would look down upon me, or all of the Chinese people in the world would be like, we don't accept her. She's not speaking for us. Like, she's not one of us. So I felt immense pressure to represent my people well. But I didn't feel immense pressure to talk about the topics that are important to me because, like I said, I was talking about that stuff anyway. And sometimes I feel like it's a privilege to have this platform to talk about the things that are important to me. It's a privilege, and I shall not, I shall honor that privilege by talking about things that people bring up to me that are important to me, especially topics that other people sort of won't go near. Like, I'll talk about those things. Yeah. Right.
Nice. Okay. So back to your wine. Wine is to be sipped, not to be gulped. Correct.
Well, I don't think any alcohol should be gulped. You should enjoy your beverage. Hopefully it's a high quality beverage. But yes, wine is meant to be sipped and I think enjoyed with friends.
Okay. So with that, there's all the do's and do nots of wine. So I want to ask you a couple of questions about that.
I'm going to get them wrong.
No, trust me. More than likely, all of us are wrong at some point. Does the cup matter?
Yes and no. I mean, there's red wine glasses, champagne glasses. But look, I've drank wine out of plastic cups before because that's what was available at the barbecue. And in the back of a truck outside the Cowboys game, we were tailgating, and I had some wine, and someone had a plastic cup, and therefore I was drinking wine out of a plastic cup. And you know what? It was delicious. It was delicious.
Okay. Something else you said is your wine is meant to be on ice even after you open it. So while you're enjoying it, it should be back in a bucket of ice.
Yes. Well, this one in particular, this is my 2020 Sauvignon Blanc. And so I keep this in the wine fridge. And then when I pour it and it's sitting out by the pool while I'm outside enjoying the weather, it starts to get warm. And I cannot drink warm white wine. I cannot. So we have a nice ice bucket, and I just plop this into the ice in between pours. And I'm telling you, it's magical. And back to our, is there a glass for everything question? I have an insulated tumbler that keeps beverages cold. And that's what this goes into while I watch my kids do cannonballs into our swimming pool. So I guess the right answer is no, it doesn't matter what you're drinking out of.
Yes, so no, I'm drinking, I have that now. And mine is obviously open, but it's not in the wine bucket. So I have to make sure I correct that next time.
We need to go get you a bucket and some ice.
We need a bucket and ice. Decanters, are they needed?
Not usually. Most wines that are not aged will open up nicely at room temperature while you're talking to guests, 30, 45, 60 minutes. Most wines do not need to be decanted.
Okay. Wine, your palate. Can you go from a white wine to a red wine? Like in the same setting, rather? Yes. In fact, you should. We do. We usually start with a little bubbly and then move on to a nice, dry, crisp white, like a Sauv Blanc, and then maybe a red blend, and then the bolder Cab Sauvs. So we move from like light to dark. And if you are ever at my house for a dinner party, which you are invited anytime, Rashod, you will have all of these in one night. You will go through the progression of the wines because I plan dinner parties with the food and the wine paired together. I may be a little of a controlled, have OCD tendencies. I don't know if you knew that. No, that's actually, that makes it fun because I have a group of friends and you can never make a decision. So I'm always here for someone who is able to just control the situation, say, this is what we're doing, this is what we're eating, this is what you're drinking while you eat this, and we're gonna have a great night. I'm here for it. Tell me what to do and we're set.
Yes, if you need to be the camp leader, I will have a whistle and a clipboard, and we're gonna get our reservation on time. These girls are so slow; it's taking like an hour. I'm like, we need to get it together. Like the reservation's at 8. It's 7:45. Let's go.
We need to go.
We need to go. Or, you know what? We'll just go, and you can stay.
That's when people get left.
Yeah.
That's what happens. We're just gonna go. Like, meet us there when you get ready, but we're gonna go.
Right.
Okay. Last thing that there's a rule for me. If a wine bottle is open, it has to be finished. Is recorking okay?
Recorking is okay. However much surface area you have at the top of the wine, unless you have a special machine that pulls that oxygen out and replaces it with an inert gas like argon, you're gonna have some oxidation of the wine. So if you're okay with that, and the wine will taste a little bit different when you open it again, it's totally fine. It's a personal preference. But look, why is your bottle of wine unfinished? Like, call a friend. Do a Zoom if you need to, if you live alone, call a friend and just go ahead and finish it, or I don't know.
No, I learned that early on in my wine days. I was at a friend's house and he said, you guys want some more wine? We were like, sure. He said, here's the thing. If I open it, we finish it. I don't close wine. So I took on that mentality. Like, if it gets opened up, it gets finished. If you're not going to finish the bottle, don't open it.
Don't open it. That's what I'm saying. Don't open it. Sometimes my husband and I will cook dinner, or he'll cook dinner and I'll sit there and watch him. And then by the time dinner comes around, we're on our second bottle. And I'm like, should we just not open this? Because, you know, we already finished a bottle of wine, like between the two of us. And he's like, no, baby, let's just open it. Like, if we don't finish it, we'll just, you know, recork it and drink it tomorrow. But most of the time we just finish it.
It's funny because you sit back and go, do I have a problem? Like, I finished a bottle of wine. And it's like, no, it's okay. Like, it's not bad.
There are some tough days, I will tell you, you know, some 2-bottle nights, because it's been a tough year and I'm like burning through my own supply. It's terrible. Mm-hmm. I'm selling it, but I'm also drinking it.
Yeah, no, it's been a crazy year. And I think I'm not gonna say what is great, but what is business savvy is to have a wine come out now with the heightened level of wine enthusiasts happening. I think right now everyone has developed some kind of a taste for some kind of a wine, to the point where it's like you're now looking for the next new thing. So I think it's a great idea. It tastes amazing.
Thank you.
I'm very happy about this.
I would be so sad if you did the spitting thing.
Oh, it doesn't happen. It would no. We do not waste drinks. I don't waste.
No, we do not.
I get it for the guy, but I will never spit my wine back out unless it is horribly disgusting and I just can't swallow it. And I've never had that happen. Regardless of how bad the wine was, I'll swallow and go.
Look, I've never met a wine that I didn't like.
Really?
I mean, even if it's not my taste, I'll still finish the sip. Because, I mean, you know, it's still wine.
So what I learned though is I'm with someone else, and we're at a house or something, and we do like a new kind of wine. I get a small amount in the cup, and then I taste that. And then if I like that, I'll get more. But I never just say, give me a full cup. Like, right. That's the mistake. That's where you mess up at.
Yeah, you must have grown up with a mama like mine, because she made us like eat those chicken wings. Like, if I dared put down a chicken wing that still had like a little bit of meat in between the bone, she was like, there's still meat on there. So it sounds like you have a mama like mine, because I would not ask for a full glass, because if I didn't like it, I would feel obligated to drink it, because we cannot waste anything. So I do the same thing. I'm like, oh, can I just have a little taste first? And then they just give you some.
Right. Or if it's friends, let me taste yours before I get the same thing.
Yeah.
If not, it's a lemonade for me.
Right. Same.